Spectrum, leave a space, type in your contribution and name, then send it to 7197. Your views, our interviews on Spectrum, Radio 1 FM 90.
A very warm welcome. This is Spectrum on Radio 1. I'm your host, Edmond Kizito. On Spectrum, tonight we review the week. Some of the topics we'll be looking at. The Sudan conflict. Uganda says it will help South Sudan in case it's attacked by its northern neighbor. Uganda used to be at loggerheads with Sudan, the mainstream Sudan, before the country was broken up into two, with Sudan often bombing northern parts of Uganda near Moyo and other places. We'll talk about that tonight. We'll talk about the presidential term limits. Some MPs say they want to restore them, so you can only run this country for 10 years in succession. We'll talk about the succession debate in President Museveni's interview with the CNN, the American cable news network, said he was ready to step aside, but not very, very succinctly. He said only if his party asks him to go. That was his rider. We'll talk about A4C transforming into 4GC, I think, which is supposed to mean forgotten my country. We'll also talk about the UNBS saga. The minister in charge of trade and industry has fired top UNBS officials who have been busting rings that have been criminal rings in some, with some investors who have been packaging goods, counterfeit goods, and not monitoring the quality of their products. Now he's fired them, saying they're discouraging investments and parading them before the media, which is, she says, a wrong thing to do. We'll talk about that. Our guests tonight: Honorable Hassan Kaps Fungaroho, Shadow Minister for Defense, also MP for Obongi County. You're most welcome, Honorable Fungaroho.
Thank you very much, my brother moderator, my colleagues here and listeners out there. I salute all of you. Thank you for tuning in.
Right. We're also joined by Mr. Charles Rwomushana, former head of political intelligence at State House. You're most welcome, Charles.
God is great.
We're also joined by Mr. Asiimwe, spokesman of the Pan-African Secretariat. You're most welcome, Stephen.
Thank you very much.
Honorable Fungaroho, should Uganda go shooting in Sudan in case South Sudan gets attacked by the north?
For me, I say no. Uganda should not go to South Sudan shooting, but should go talking. And the talking should not just be waited for until war breaks out. Actually, there is already war, but what we need to do now is to mobilize for peace talks to be reinstated. There were peace talks before, they collapsed in the middle. A series of peace talks dating as far back as the comprehensive peace agreement signed in Nairobi 2005. And then we had other important landmarks like the referendum of South Sudan deciding whether to remain within Sudan or to become a republic. And then also the declaration of independence on the 7th of July last year. All these things came as a result of talking. They have given a very big mileage for South Sudan. What has been achieved from 2005 to date through negotiations largely is much more than what was achieved through fighting. Uganda has been in South Sudan before. Uganda has been in other countries, including the Democratic Republic of the Congo, militarily, I mean. So we can gauge the outcome of Uganda's participation militarily and also the outcome of Uganda's participation in peace talks. I remember the late Dr. John Garang spearheading the talks between the government of Khartoum and the SPLA, and then working closely with also other governments, including the government of Uganda, including President Museveni himself. So President Museveni should look at himself from this perspective of now being an elder, persuading people to talk instead of being a combatant or persuading people to go and fight. So that's why I say they should not say if Khartoum attacks Southern Sudan, they will go and fight. That one is not a good statement.
All right, let's try to look at some of the circumstances surrounding this saga. South Sudan is where we're still trying to get you some of these names. South Sudan went into Northern Sudan and attacked or occupied an oil well, that's Hague. Today we had reports that they withdrew, but before we even talk about that, why would they go and attack another country, occupy an oil well, when North is still complaining about South Sudan having taken most of the oil?
Yeah, what I really needed to say was that the South Sudan has achieved a lot of things. And maybe the Northern Sudan, which we call Sudan, could be said to have lost a lot of things. first of all, the sovereignty of South Sudan is a big achievement itself. And then the oil, which used not to be under the control of Southern Sudan completely, partly has been given. In the areas of Bentiu, there is already oil in the hands of the government of South Sudan. The Republic of South Sudan, in other words, is one of the designated countries of Africa where oil is there. Yes. So what I needed to say to my friends in South Sudan, I have many friends, and I think good about them, including His Excellency the President.
Yes.
Yes, some of them are my relatives for sure. So what I would like to say to my brothers in South Sudan is that sometimes there is a problem in the management of victory. If you study psychology, this is a very important thing. Once you have succeeded in something, your problem number one becomes how to manage that victory. And sometimes in the strategies of war, you read books about war, sometimes the biggest time of perish is actually the time of victory. When you have achieved something great, that is likely the time where you are going to perish. So these achievements are great. We would like, therefore, my brothers in Sudan to concentrate on how to manage the victory they have achieved. This victory is not small. They need to consolidate the state building of the Sudan. I went to Sudan on the day of the Declaration of Independence, and I like the speech of General Salva speaking to the people. Yes, that you people of Sudan, you know what? Today you are celebrating that you have got independence. You know that you have now shifted the former blame you used to put on others, that Sudan is not developed because of Khartoum.
Right.
Sudan is not developed because of this and that, Omar Bashir, Arabs. Now, if Sudan is not developed, this time the blame comes home to you. The scapegoat is no longer there.
Right.
So this is the time to consolidate the direction of development. Even if there was necessity for war, this wouldn't be the time to start it. There was necessity for war immediately after the signing of the Addis Ababa agreement. You remember?
Yes.
In the 1970s. But people who were at that time did not fight.
All right.
A new generation of fighters, including the late Dr. John Garang. At that time, he was a small boy. Let me say like that.
Yes.
A young man.
Yes.
But he had seen that thing. In his 20s, he was a captain. He had just come out of. He was actually a graduate from the cadet school.
Right.
And when the time came.
All right.
Way back after many years, 83.
Right.
A new generation of fighters fought. So this war of Southern Sudan, the liberation of Southern Sudan, all the Sudanese people, the black people cannot be finished by one generation over a short time. So another generation will emerge out of the current Southern Sudanese to take the Sudan forward from the gains, these gains which have been achieved through what? Through peaceful. But there are risks.
There's
interferences. I will come to this afterwards. Interference by outsiders. I wanted to add on this.
Maybe we have to move forward because of the time. Because there's a saying in management talk that in victory nowhere to stop, and there's such a thing as a victor's justice. Was South Sudan justified in occupying Hague Lake, Charles?
I don't know because it's very difficult to read these people in Southern Sudan. Uganda says it contributed in their liberation, which is a fact, because I saw very many prisoners of war in Makindi.
Go on.
In other words, Ugandans died in the battlefield to give them that homeland, to liberate them. But when our businessmen go there, they cheat them, they imprison them without trial, they don't want to pay them, it's all hell. So I don't understand these people, honestly. When you look at the hospitality we have given them, I don't think Ugandans have had these SPLO people in any way.
You've treated them well, really.
Even when they are here, it's
Garang used to live in Machin.
Forget about Garang. Because Garang was at a different level. Was at a different level. But the way the SPLOs, I don't want to go into their tribes because I even don't know them. But I hear them calling them Dinkas or what. I don't know them because I shouldn't make mistakes here.
Go on.
But the way we have treated them, the way we have been hospitable to them, and the way they treat our people who go there, it's actually a country I fear. It's not a country I would love to go and
spend a weekend.
No. Now, I'm not privy to the intelligence that was the backbone of the settlement of General Aronda. But if the declaration of war on southern Sudan by President Bashir and his parliament amounts to threat to our national security, then that's the duty. That's their duty. That's the duty of the managers of national security to secure us. And how they do it is really their business. Whether it's direct intervention, indirect intervention, as long as it's a threat to our national security and our national sovereignty. If the intelligence has read it that way, then they are justified. But unfortunately, I don't have.
Let's get something very clear. When South Sudan went and occupied an oil well, which is clearly in North Sudan. I'm using the word North for clarity. Now, the Northern Sudan has not declared war. Parliament said we shall react.
No, he has. I listened.
The statement they made.
President.
They said it was conditional in case they continue occupying Heglig. It's not like we're going to war.
No, he said because I listened to him. He said the government in Khartoum, in Juba, is now an enemy.
Yes, they say that.
Yeah,
and they say we'll clash with them until we finish them. But they didn't say we're launching. There's a declaration of what
of course, I'm not talking about the formal declaration of war. Yeah, as pursuant to the law, whichever law, whether they are law or in another law. But if that's what they read, because I've said I don't know the intelligence for them, they know, because you would think they are going to hit South Sudan, and then they begin hitting the rear. The rear where their supplies are coming from, and you may find that bombs begin running up in Western Nile and
it's happened before.
And yes, so if there is, but in any case, this is not new. The operations of Northern Sudan have had a bearing on our national security, and UPDF has been involved in operations in Sudan. So it's not a new thing. The only thing we now need to study more deeply is the Arabization of the conflict. Because initially we were fighting to liberate black people as against the Arabs. Now, if you start a new war, it's as if you are fighting Arabs. And you must think about Tanzania, you must think about Kenya, that Arab, it's a bit serious. Now you must look at different dimensions, because you provoked Kabila and Angola, Namibia, and Zimbabwe came in. So you now can go for another war, because you went from Mobutu and they didn't react. But when they went on Kabila, the other regional powers reacted. Now you may go in and the other regional powers react because of various factors. And I've studied this, I'm picking this on the ground.
Stephen, of course we know that the Ugandan army has said that Khartoum has been reinvigorating the support for the LRA. Is this justified? Is this strong enough for us to move in there and take our jets and deploy them?
Still hangover. People have been talking about the hangover of the movement system, in the multi-party system. I think there is still hangover of the Northern Sudan to lead the Southern army, who actually, my colleagues have mentioned it. If you see from 72, 87, they have been trying to make discussions. Then until when Moi presided over that and they agreed to sign, the former vice president of Sudan and Garang tried and finished. Now, when you look at this, what my colleague is saying, declaring war, you look at the World War I, Austria, Serbia, then immediately other countries joined, Germany, France. Yes, because they are interested. And war is about trade, is about the resources of the country. Resources. There is no people who have just gone to war because they are poor.
Because of ideas.
No. Now, what my colleague after was mentioning about Rwomushana. You don't want
you feel free to deny it. Go on.
There is this thing of where they are saying that we have helped the Sudanese, but then when we go there, they treat us badly. The Baganda say, go on Yevgeri.
Hassan. You heal a man's bad foot and he uses it to kick you.
But for us, we are doing it on a Pan-African perspective. We are helping the Africans. Like
we treat them as a child. We don't.
Yeah, of course. If even us, we might be looking for sources, but at least they believe that we did our work.
Okay.
Now, one thing which I wanted to get clear with these Sudanese, the issue is Garanga. No, not Garanga. Bashir. Actually, he risks so much. You know, after the coup, there is ICC hanging on his head.
Yes.
So, if you open more battlefields with international community and local community and neighbors,
becomes complicated.
And actually, what General Aronda has been saying, of course, you know, the priests on Easter,
yes,
and the bishops were talking about these things you have in Tamrin.
Yes.
The role of the army is to secure the borders.
Yes.
And if they see any risk, they can also declare. Because Sudan borders with Uganda.
South Sudan.
Yes.
So it is okay for the army commander
to say
that we must secure this. Now, another thing
we need to move forward.
You are asking on your question here, you are saying, are there other forces? Automatically, we don't produce guns. We don't even produce safety pins for jiggers. Even
only bullets. We don't have safety bullets.
So,
we might have safety pins.
If this war escalates,
our factory will get busy.
Then actually factory will get busy. People will get tenders to reconstruct.
Inflation will come down,
like they have done in Libya. So this one, even the
Production Act.
So those who, you will see in other countries advertising what they have.
Talk about it. Let's move something else. No, let's move forward. A4C becomes 4GC. Now it's forgotten in my country. Maybe they should give them
is it 4GC
action 4GC.
I want to give some serious point which my brain is mentioned, but this is very important to understand what is happening in South Sudan. Other factors which have provoked, which have ignited that war, you need to look at geopolitics, the rivalry between the US and China.
All right.
On the issue of oil.
Maybe we talk about
the United States of America had an agenda to fight in several countries, including Iraq, remove Saddam, which they have done, Iran, which is not yet done, Syria, which they are doing, Libya, they have done. Now, they see an opportunity in the existence of a sovereign country close to Khartoum, that is now South Sudan. So they want to use South Sudan as a launching pad to finish the original mission of removing Bashir, punishing Bashir also Sudan for being part and parcel of the axis of evil. That's one. Two, China is being complained against by the US. China is strongly enough in the Sudan and even in Congo. So the United States,
all over, they're even in Nigeria.
So the problem there is the problem there is that we are responding to people, other people's pressure. But my brothers in South Sudan to be very careful with the US. The friendship of the US is not permanent. You remember the first guns which were used against the SPLA in '83 by the government of Numeri was given by the US. Jafar Numeri. The US fought against the SPLA more than any other world power, and they came again and fought in support of the SPLA. So maybe after their interest came in, maybe along the way in future, the same US government will turn against you.
Okay.
So build yourselves, but be cautious. Receive help from anybody. They say that if you are drowning in water, there is a temptation of even trying to cling on a snake that you want to
never heard of that.
You see? Yeah. So be careful with the US. Let them help you, but be careful. They should not drive you to fight in new wars which are not yours.
Let's go for a break now. This is Spectrum listeners on Radio 1. We'll be back. Do stay tuned to us.
When Junior lost his appetite, his mother tried all methods to get him to eat. She tried scary stories.
Eat, Tommy, eat, or the big black elephant will come and eat all your food.
She tried magic.
Tommy, if you eat your food, I will turn this handkerchief into sweets. Look, bumble, bumble, boom, boom.
Then she discovered Apetol multivitamin syrup with lysine.
Mommy, I finished all the food. I am number 1.
Apetol multivitamin with lysine is helping mothers to turn mealtime frustration to a fun moment. Apetol has a great taste and contains lysine, which quickly improves your child's appetite and supports healthy growth. Apetol, health for life.
My name's Dominic. pay the driver. I want a cash of 1 million shillings. I subscribe star 200 hash. The money can do some small business for my family. I would therefore invite the others who are not yet with Airtel to also come and join us and then play Chika.
More houses, more millions, and more talk with Chika Too Good Chikaye. Dial star 500 hash. Get 30 Airtel to Airtel minutes and stand a chance to win 1 million shillings every day and 1 of 2 houses every month. Activate Chika today and win big. Chika Too Good Chikaye. Chika Too Good Chikaye.
Airtel. John, Mike and I, we go back a bit. We knew John at the beginning, working for someone else. But he was different. He had vision, saw opportunities. He started working towards his goal, opened his own garage, and worked, learning the hard way. His reputation spread. Trust, consistency, quality. Soon people were coming to him from all parts. He made himself and his whole street prosper, and also helped friends, seeing potential in people and helping them on. But John never shouts about all his success. He's just who he is. Special.
So here's to men like John, who make a difference, who enjoy Nile Special, the rich, satisfying taste from the source. Nile Special. You've earned it.
Not for sale to persons under 18.
Accept no substitutes.
Radio 1, FM 90.
Welcome back. This is Spectrum on Radio 1. Tonight we're reviewing the week of our guests. Honorable Hassan Kaps Fungaroho, Shadow Minister of Defense, also coming from the Obongi County. He's Member of Parliament for Obongi County in West Nile. Mr. Charles Rwomushana, former Head of Political Intelligence at State House, and Mr. Stephen Asiimwe, Spokesman of the Pan-African Secretariat. You might not be able to call in tonight, but you can send a text message. Send it to 7197. That is Spectrum. Question, message, or comment 7197. Charles Rwomushana, A4C has become 4GC. They should be given as desk in State House to preach patriotism, maybe.
Yeah, you know, there is when in activism you graduate to being childish.
Not cynicism?
Yes, being childish. Because the activism is not in the name. If it was A4C, because it was activists for change. And you battle. Of course, they should have seen this, that there was going to be a war, and the war was.
There was going to be a
war.
W-A-L-L, not war.
Yeah, barrier. There was going to be a war, and the war was. Of course, you wouldn't overthrow a government using rallies, 2, 3, 4 rallies of an average of 500 people. Even if they threw stones at police, how many tons of rallies, how many containers of stones that you have that will occupy ground? But anyhow, their point was hard. You walk, you get exhausted. Their point was hard. Government, it was the duty of government to respond in whichever way it did. There were a number of responses. I understand you are being given money, and that's the business of government. It's not my business to go into. Now, if your point, because the purpose of a demonstration that you should be had is to make a point. If they think their point has not been made, then really I think they have a problem. But if they want to graduate something else, then they should do it.
You want to do what?
To graduate something.
Like, well, they want to take power.
Yeah, I mean, yes, the others have graduated. Syria, they have graduated. They are now at a different level, and what they are now discussing is
shed some blood.
What they are discussing is a ceasefire. They have now gone to another level. You have the UN involved in mediation to have a ceasefire, and Assad is trying to make changes, including even by the introducing this term which are talking about to leave power, and they are saying no to her, we won't lay down our arms, we will fight. So if F4C wants to graduate, which of course it intends to do, it should do it. This business of changing names, forgotten my country, what? Now, in any case, they are marked, because what is the policy of government? The way you read it is the policy of containment. Because you are inviting government to be extremely very suppressive, be very violent, kill people on the streets, and government is not doing it, it's restraining itself. Right. But at the same time, contain you. So within 6 months, you will be having more than 100 charges on you. And if you are convicted, you are in for life. 4, you no longer now see my friend from Obongi walking
No, doesn't work.
He doesn't. So there are very many of them who will stop working because the checks were deposited and they went for 30 meals. So they have problems of weight.
There's a point here. Yes. You see, when you don't see us working, you don't think that maybe we agree with the government. Actually, right now, I have more questions, more trouble of government following up me and other members of the opposition who used to be very vocal. They say, why are you quiet? Even on the floor of parliament, I mean in the lobbies of parliament.
Yes.
Those dealing with security, those dealing with other things, say, Fungaroho, what are you doing?
What do you
for me, I say
you're graduating
no, I am a Ugandan. I appreciate the work of the members of the A4C. They have a right to express themselves the way they have done. A4C actually aids Museveni more than removes Museveni from power. That's why some of us believe that we differ with in terms of approaches. A4C is for the urban center. I'm a rural person. My constituency, Obongi, and entire West Nile is far from the urban center where those strategies.
Yes.
Maybe that.
Yeah, they are resting.
If I choose
in the West Nile, they are mobilizing.
Listen, if I choose to be a rebel, and then I'll tell you that I'm a rebel. Since I've not told you that I'm a rebel, I'm not a rebel.
Right.
So for me, what I know is Ugandans who are demonstrating are giving credibility to Museveni's government.
How do they do that?
They are giving that the government is a peaceful, democratic. Remember the day Olaro Tuno was escorted from somewhere up to Uganda House. They paraded this saying that, you see, this is how we are better. And when a policeman kills somebody in such a demonstration, they say, you see, this is a personal mistake.
All right.
But if a policeman does something good, they say it is not a personal credit, it is a credit of the government.
All right.
So for me, people who want this government to survive, people who want this country not to be disturbed so much, should allow the A4C to demonstrate. Because demonstrating, even talking the way I talk, I have even seen it with myself. When I'm angry and I speak on a radio like this, I get some sense of cooling. I feel something has been done. Right. The problem is being addressed. And I have been deceiving myself like this since I came into active politics, since I was elected to parliament.
No,
so I think for me, it is not a check.
All right. Stephen,
but this is the time of election.
I agree with Honorable Fungaroho that this A4C is a failure of multi-party system. Some individuals in the parties have failed to catch up. Why not you have Ingrid, who is a member of Forum for Democratic Change, telling the government that we, the FDCs, are going to demonstrate? Why don't you tell Masias Mpoga, who is a member of Democratic Party, the second group, to go and demonstrate on behalf of Democratic Party? So it is a failure. It is individual failure within parties that they are. Now this thing, by the way, to pronounce this by these local youths who have been following them, it is going to be hard. This new name which they have graduated into 4GC, others will be saying forgery. So you see, that's why I agree with my honorable that it is better. Why don't we mobilize within our parties? We say, we the FDCs, we are on the street, we are going to demonstrate on this. But the failure, the disagreement within parties has created this. And why don't you see, why are all these members? Because I even don't know why the Attorney General banned them. Because they don't exist. It is like banning air. This is amalgamation of failures within parties.
I could give you a simple amalgamation of failures. I could give you a
because A4C,
yes,
the members belong totally to parties. So who is the member? Basically, isn't he the president of FDC?
It's like a movement.
Yes. Masias, a member of independence.
Well, it could be a movement.
Yes.
Now, no, I could give you an answer to this.
When he goes to Masaka municipality, does he say, I am a member of FSC or DP?
So I could give you an answer to this.
Let's get your answer.
Because they knew where they were going to go next. They did not want to damage the political parties in where they belong. Because they know the actions in the next phase would lead to the banning of those political parties.
Really,
to move to another stage, but saving their mother party.
My brother also, my brother Charles, you should stop demonizing Besige. Besige has done
let's not mention Besige. Let's talk about another man.
Okay, I mean, when you say he's a member of A4C, you talk negatively about him, that he wants to graduate to another thing. Besige has done good things. You see, let's talk about something else. Is that the first rebel? Was Museveni not a rebel? You do from the city square.
Listen, this is Spectrum. Is not new here. You can send your text messages.
It is not a crime to be a rebel. You ask Museveni whether it is a crime to be a rebel.
719.
It is not. If the situation calls for one to be a rebel, you must become a rebel.
Let's move forward.
You see, that is written in our laws, and even in the constitution is there.
You must have provoked the honorable. He's normally a very cool man. Let's talk about presidential term limits, Charles. Rwomushana. He's not a very cool man. Let's talk about presidential term limits. Do you think Parliament will bring them out, and do you think they'll block Museveni from signing in 2016?
It was harder for President Museveni and the NRM then to amend the constitution to remove term limits than to fail the move to insert term limits. So if they had wanted to block term limits, then they didn't need 2/3. They needed slightly more than a third, and they would have broke. Now they need more than 2/3.
Well, but that was a different kind of
part. No, what I'm saying, to amend the constitution, it was valid, but NRM then to amend the constitution to set a clause of to remove term limits. So they needed 2/3.
Yes.
NRM needed more than 2/3.
Which they got.
It was not easy, because you remember the battles of Apakabura and the others, because they had even wanted to bypass this constitution making process and use a referendum. Now it is now much harder to bring in, because if you have to bring in a bill to amend the constitution, you need 2/3. The other time they needed less.
So I don't think it's going to happen.
Now you have to look at the games, because the game plan, the first one was impeachment. They haven't even discussed it.
Yeah, now 4.
Yeah. Then they have now brought in term limits, and in term limits they have even involved churches. They mobilized the churches. They are mobilizing civil society.
Well, also the churches can come up on their own.
No, they are not. I'm now telling what is taking place. They have not even mobilized all the churches, because they're talking about it is the church here in the central. The head of my Catholic church. Have you heard of Bachenga? Make a this was a big lie. You are thinking about things which the State House is doing. For example, you look at the way the State House has been issuing, like recruiting religious leaders to be on the payroll of State House. Haven't you heard of district qadis? Haven't you heard of even muftis being given materials, money, vehicles from State House? Yeah. Who told you that the religious leaders are supposed to be in the payroll on the payroll of State House? So what we know is that the religious leaders have a duty to respond to the situation in which their flock live.
Right.
They are members of the country. They are citizens themselves. Let alone the color. They have feelings. They move on the same potholes.
Yes.
They suffer from the same high prices of food.
They don't and when the faithful go to church, they present their prayer requests.
For me, when a church man,
you don't have potholes.
You also look at him as a Ugandan. So what I'm telling you is that for us, the issue of the presidential term limits has been about a long time ago.
Yes.
We presented proposals of reforms. Remember, as we were going through the elections of 2011.
Yes.
So this thing is not new, but watch out. There is some kind of contamination of the debate on the restoration of the presidential term limits by those people who support President Museveni's continuous rule of Uganda Paka last. They are saying, bring this term limit, remove the age limit. President Museveni will begin contesting for the first time.
Yes.
In 2016.
Yes.
And then you will wait for him for another 10 years. And then he will remove the presidential term for 10 years.
All right. So, Stephen, what you're reading?
What I am fearing in this parliament is that before one item goes on, because Ruchamus brought impeachment with Honorable Goto,
which did not work.
I think 4 people have now signed. Now
well,
they bring. Now they have brought another move of term limit. Now what I'm wondering, like what my colleague is saying, if because the law, I don't know whether the law works going backward, it works going forward. So if you say 216 first term, 221, then you go on 216.
And again, I mean the confusion.
Would that be acceptable to you?
No, but you see, democracy starts with discussion.
Yes.
If these members of parliament get the numbers, which I think it is now a tall order.
Yes.
No, by the way, of course, I was still on the front, you got me off. They can fall into a trap. Every time they have called for constitutional amendment, they've been allowed. The president has always had an initiative, Constitution Review Commission, led by same paper. But the other provisions of the Constitution which they amend, which they introduce, are too tight. Like this Kampala cause, you can see where it's moving.
Yes.
It's a little bit more serious. So if you can call now for constitutional amendment, and then they bring in more other serious amendments to do with land, to do with the other complicated things. So well, of course, now you can understand that my issue belongs to the NRM party. My issue is that there is an agenda. The agenda is aimed at the person of the president,
which is a good thing.
Me, I'm looking at where are they moving next. Because if you check the boundaries of Uganda, it's all not that rosy. I didn't want to go into this. Let me help you. You see somebody mobilizing firewood, you see somebody mobilizing a pot. When you add all these ingredients, you know it's moving towards cooking. and it's imperative that you find out what is going to. These fellows want to break up this country. That's a lie. I'm not a fool. Being mobilized, I said, yes. How many times?
You must have
to ban more than 100 schools. You don't know what is going on in Uganda.
This one is diversionary.
Why?
President is the person who is well known
arrested from Kalai.
To have done what? To have started, to have actually instigated this thing of violence. Even some of them confessed. And people of NRA putting on uniforms of T-shirts of UPC going to kill people in Luoro and then saying it is UPC or Bote killing people. In Northern Uganda, the issues of the violence which has been blamed on LRA has covered completely the loss of LRA. The issue of the presidential term is not targeting Museveni. We are trying to prepare for a better Uganda without Museveni. Because Museveni is leaving very soon. Whether I like it or not, he's leaving. But when he leaves, we cannot write a confusion like the one which has been here when he is here. You see? So that's why we are saying presidential term limits introduction is not targeting Museveni, but we are preparing for a journey towards the ideal Uganda we want. President Museveni is getting out.
Let's talk about his succession. Why would President Museveni not name a successor?
No, this is not a kingdom.
Go on.
Because
we've had that before. Go on.
You mentioned that Asiimwe is going to succeed me when it is a kingdom.
Go on.
What happens if the institution of the NRM party is... You see, Nyerere here, they told him after Chama
well, I've done it in CCM.
She said, no, I am not standing, I'm leaving. They said, we are not returning to Marti Party. Nyerere said, you are returning to Marti Party. So, this next week, NRM is meeting. If the man says, on Tuesday, if he says, I'm not coming, then you will see how they panic. You get me? And you see a president cannot say, I am just leaving. You see how they come. Now, these ones actually were saying now presidential term limit. If President Museveni mentioned it on Tuesday that he's not coming, you would see how the debate now diverts.
How will it be diverted?
Immediately, everybody will fall flat like an empty envelope.
You see,
that's the problem of this country. Guys don't sustain a debate for a month. You have started impeachment. Yes, you have started impeachment. Before it ends, you have brought term limit. Before term limit, you have changed the A4C to A4G. Why?
Well, those are different things.
I mean,
those are different things.
No,
A4C is not empowerment. You know that. A4C is not empowerment.
You know,
it's about movement. If you want to know the of the people, they are trying to demonstrate against the problems they see in Uganda.
The center of gravity of the national resistance movement is President Gerald Museveni.
Yes.
And the opposition knows it quite well. The center of gravity of FDC is Dr. Chiza Besigye. And that's a fact. It's now established on the ground. And Besigye is saying he's retiring, is leaving as president of FDC, but He's still eligible to stand. Is still eligible to stand. And if he's blocked there, you will form another organization, and FDC will be normal. But the point I'm making is that you now make a mistake, and you field another candidate in NRM when you have not prepared your act. The way the ground is, you lose the elections.
You mean if Besige stands and Museveni does not stand?
Now tell me in this line who? Suppose who is not tainted with corruption? Who is who are you tainted with corruption? Me taking on your Obongi. you on your ground. And you think you can develop it in 2-3 years? No problem. You see, it's the biggest problem in the world. Why don't is not poverty? Why don't I submit? It is not ignorance. It is not apathy. This is tendency of believing that you are inadequate. You are not enough. It is all Museveni. This is the disease killing please stop that. Don't say it's only Museveni who can be president. They brought here Oraro to know with all his residentials, Dr. Oraro to know with all his. The way they're talking about you and me, what? Did he even go beyond 2%?
He was in charge of children.
Did he go beyond 2% with him?
He inspired Tony Blair. Tony Blair wrote about him in his book saying
that was not my issue. What impact did he make on the ground? I heard them talk about my brother, from a president. They could go beyond 2%. The ground has got its own dynamics. And the Besige and Museveni, who are all NRM, all members of the high command of the NRA, all members of the Army Council. Actually, this system is too tight. Besige is hitting the rock he himself created. You see, you remember when Semogerere, when the radical wing of the DP was mobilized, the of Kagwa, Michael Kagwa was trying, what did the Besige do? Besige was the other side, hitting them. When the helicopter hovering. Yes, and when Karuhanga Semogerere came to Rukunji, ask Besige what he told me when I protested against the beating of Karuhanga Semogerere. He called me Englishman and represented me. That was Besige on the other side. I was with Besige in CA. He was radically opposed opening up to multipartyism. Yes. So Besige made NRM tight. He went out with Njuba and some other people, and they formed another wing of NRM. So it is 2 NRMs now in charge. When you are on this side, another one is this side. Let me can NRM recommend your wife for when you are on the other side to this job? Then William is occupying. So these are brothers and sisters in, I shouldn't say in Christ. They have left under the ground. Now you make a mistake and you go and pull out of this base I'm hearing and you bring them before doing the villages of Uganda. Who among these will address 200 rallies? You will be surprised. Go on. You prepare the ground. That's why the institution of the military to do that. The institution of the military is strong. Now the IGG will now have the judge to prosecute them before judges. So the whole crowd that has been stopping growth in the country politically is now going to be weeded out and is going to go to reserve. Now this will be getting old. Rwomushana has reduced the problem in Uganda to Museveni and Besige. That is very wrong. The problem of Uganda is not Museveni, and the problem of the opposition, or the spine, the backbone, that's the core of the opposition. That's the core. Don't be diversionary. Besige came, and we linked up in 2001. The first person who came up on the scene of opposition politics and was massively supported, particularly in northern Uganda, was Dr. Semogerere. Where was Besige at that time? Hating him. He was with the 32%. No, Dr. Besige was first of all with the Museveni. You said this one correctly. He was there, yes. This doesn't mean this doesn't mean that he has no right, or other people have no right to come out and join the side of the opposition. The issue of the opposition is objectively based on issues. The opposition was looking for a leader, and comparing Dr. Semogerere with the Besige, they thought Besige was a better person to lead them in the struggle.
If Dr. Besigye leaves the struggle today,
Zemogere might come back.
Another person is likely to rise up. I'm telling you, as they go tonight, look at the Palestinian issue.
Okay.
We shall continue that. The issue of Uganda.
Something. We have to move forward.
In conclusion of this matter here, please look at Uganda objectively, not Besigye versus Museveni.
Not Besigye.
UNBS. Parliament has been taken by FDC.
UNBS. The the minister, Amelia Shambari, is firing the top cream of UNBS, which has been fighting counterfeits and other things. She says that they should not disorganize investors, even though some have iron filings in sugar.
You would also say who are the investors, but if she has fired those groups, what I want to know is she going to take them to court for the damages have been caused? Because this thing of firing people on the street does not help Uganda. I don't know that.
Have they done something wrong?
No, okay, firing is the first step, but these people.
Well, but some people think they've been doing a good job fighting against counterfeits, and the minister seems to be defending counterfeits.
When they get these shops are near you here, when they get the shop selling things which are wrong, they open it. The next day, the shop still opens. Why don't they close it forever? It is like Ministry of Education. If you find a school cheating, remove the rices and the headmaster.
No, but the minister right now is the one defending those people who are supposed to be in the wrong.
Why do you get that?
Well, she says they are embarrassing investors, and the UNBS says they are revealing, they're exposing.
But if she has sacked them, then they should go.
Honorable Fungaroho,
yes.
What's your reading of that? The UNBS people appear to be doing a good job from the surface of it. Then the minister fires them because she says they're embarrassing investors.
Investors, you see, these people called investors, at most, even if you see them as foreign investors, these are not foreign investors. These are the looters who have looted this country all the time. Since the NRM came to power, they have built the schools, they have built the factories which are producing these counterfeit goods. They are trying to clean their money. You see, what people say, like money laundering. You see this? Give three of them. They are using this atmosphere of producing forgeries as a process of money laundering. So the minister must be investigated, and Parliament has already made a statement to that effect, that Honorable Chambers is not going to be left to go like that.
You want to what? You want to censure her?
We are going to investigate, and if she's found wrong, she will be censored, because a body of government, an institution of government, which has been doing a good thing, protecting the citizens of this country against the dangers of counterfeit goods, you want to remove this. So we see that there is a hidden agenda there. We members of Parliament, many more members of Parliament this time round, regardless of political party divides, have a common thinking for this country.
Right.
That's why you see on many issues we move together, whether you are UPC, NRM, DP,
you take
FDC,
off your party hats.
we take off our party uniforms. So this issue will be
mentioned to have
fought in the
I hope I was protected in my one man. I was among those and party led commanded the operation called Operation Q that was fighting counterfeit.
Yes.
And we had UNBS on board. And indeed, most of our factories and industries, most of them are really substandard and are headers. And I threat our headers. I wouldn't want to go through.
So the mineral water draws water.
I wouldn't, because we're on radio, they could be advertisers. So I don't want to cause the problem.
The truth stands supreme. Go on.
Now, but I was on radio, I was on Spectrum, I was on Chimeza, which was hosted by Radio 1, and I raised the issues to do with substandard, with poor quality of tires. I don't want to go back into it, and they complained. They went and complained to UNBS that I raised this, because I was there, we took the tires, and the tires were fake. And I carried out a survey in town, and found most tires were fake, were swearing.
Right.
The issue of fuel, I raised it, because I personally saw
adulterated
fuel. Now, cement, of course, because Amtare was almost arrested. Now, what do you
give an example of those people who are stealing money through counterfeit.
When they raised this, this same man has been sacked, raised me, said there is this complaint here, and he was trying to deny that I hadn't even taken away a complainant. But when he left, he confessed that even the tires which the Uganda government bought from them had burst, and because of the difference in terrain, that those tires had not been meant for terrain. So it's not true that these fellows have been fighting counterfeit. Some factories, they have been covering counterfeit, and I'm saying it on the air.
Maybe the problem is too big, they couldn't cover everything.
The issue is the magnitude of the punishment. Actually, they should be hit hard. Because to those who are small, they were rough. To those who are big and who damaged this economy and damaged the consumer, they were right. And we know we buried the people who took ethanol instead of warrage. Including it warrage.
All right, we have to go. Thank you very much, dear guest. Honorable Hassan Kaps Fungaroho, Shadow Minister for Defense, Member of Parliament for Obongi County. Thank you very much for coming to Spectrum tonight. Mr. Charles Rwomushana, former Head of Political Intelligence at Status, and Mr. Asiimwe, Spokesman of the Pan-African Secretariat. Thank you for tuning in. I've been your host, Edmond. So Spectrum will be back on Monday. Up next is the news in English. Do stay tuned.
Thank you.
Let the sunlight in.